Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Christmas edition, holiday edition, whatever you want to call it edition. Starting with The Leprechaun's Christmas Gold, not starring Warwick Davis.
It's a bit of a disappointment. That would have been a fun crossover.
So I thought about, as I was watching this is a Rankin Bass film, for those who aren't aware, with the stop motion animation. And every time I watch one of these movies, I think to myself, now that I'm retired, I should start an animation company and do something like this. And I thought, man, I would, as I watched this one specifically, I said, I would love to make a Leprechaun stop motion film, horror version. And maybe we could get Warwick to come out of horror movie retirement and voice the character. Wouldn't that be cool?
You know, I think what you should do, you should become a patron of certain people who do these kind of things and just become a producer on their project and have them do it for you. Use their influence.
Well, I had a very similar conversation with Emily 2 nights ago when I was talking about that. And I said, I'm coming in too late in the game to actually be good at any of this stuff. But I could just hire all the people to do the parts. But I think I would enjoy the process. So I could be the director or the producer or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
We could go into it together. We could be
I don't know if
Gould
I'm
Winters.
that interested in having a Warwick Davis stop motion holiday classic.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be that. We could collaborate. That could just be one of the projects.
Oh,
So
man.
I was picking up Logan from school today, and he says, I was telling him what we were going to be recording on. He says, I know what you can do for St. Patrick's Day. Leprechaun.
Yeah.
I don't know if Adam's into that kind of movie.
You know, I do sort of. I've seen some of those. I don't know if I can't or I just haven't gotten through all of them. But every now and then, Vudu would do a sale, like all of the movies for $10 or something. And I watched the first 3, and I watched the remake, which I thought was terrible. I forgot what they. Is it a remake or is it a sequel to the original?
All right, so they've kind of done both. And just for the record, I think I watched the first 4. I saw him go to space. I did not see him in The Hood or in The Hood 2. So WWE produced a remake with their little midget character. I forget his name. And that one was horrible. And then they did another remake a few years ago with someone who they actually tried to get him to look like Warwick Davis. And I thought that one was fine.
One of them was called Returns. The other was called Origins or Origin. I seem to remember that.
I can't recall which one. The one produced by WWE was trash. It was just absolutely horrible. I did appreciate the most recent one.
Okay.
So I don't know. Maybe we can do it. You've watched it.
For whatever reason, I guess I've had a low opinion of leprechauns. I view them as something not to be trusted, but Rankin Bass is very positive on the leprechaun agenda.
You don't like short people?
No.
You don't trust short people, huh?
I like hobbits. I like dwarves.
I think hobbits are overrated.
They are. I give you credit, but dwarves are okay. I'm not big on gnomes. I have never bothered to see any of those gnome movies, even if Sylvester Stallone is involved. And I was not even a big fan of that Nick Jr. cartoon, David the Gnome, by Tom Bosworth. You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I would never stoop to watch such a cartoon.
So we're agreed we just don't care for gnomes for whatever reason. I like leprechauns. I just don't trust them.
I feel like gnomes are just kind of the plastic version of dwarfs.
Yeah. Garden
like
gnomes.
A gnome lives in a garden. Like a gnome, I don't even know where one comes from.
I think they're more associated with the Netherlands, whereas Ireland gets the leprechauns, and I don't know about dwarves and hobbits and all that, about where they're supposed to be. Elves, right? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The elves, I think, are big in Sweden or Switzerland. I get those mixed up.
Okay. What about banshees?
I love banshees. I don't know a whole lot about them, but they are Irish. I want banshees all day long. I'm big into that.
So, do you think the history behind the banshee in the Leprechaun's Christmas Gold is accurate? Because I have no idea.
So, the most simplistic understanding I have of a banshee is that the wailing of the banshee is supposed to signal the imminent or the recent death of a loved one for anybody who's in the earshot of the banshee cry. So banshee tears, I think, are a thing, that they're always weeping because they are associated with that. But with the leprechaun and the gold deal, I had never heard of that before.
Did the banshee shriek in this movie?
I don't remember it. I mean, she yelled at different points, but I wouldn't call it a traditional banshee shriek.
I mean, she shrieks like a 5-year-old asked for candy in a store. Gimme, gimme, gimme. That's kind of the extent, I think.
So should we summarize this plot since we've introduced our banshee already and why there's a banshee in this movie?
So this movie is set up weird, by the way. Like it's an odd thing, which makes it difficult to figure out how to start. But I guess we could say the movie opens with the introduction of the narrator, Blarney Kilakalarney. And by the way, these people speak Irish, right? With Irish accents, so they speak very quickly. Blarney Kilakalarney. And I'm thinking to myself, in the pre-Wikipedia day, how is the audience supposed to know what these people's names actually were?
It may be a reference to something historical, and maybe, you have the Blarney Stone, which is Irish lore. I don't know about Kilakalarney at all. He's a leprechaun by birth, a gold keeper by vocation, and a spinner of tales by choice.
Yes.
The
and
principal.
I should say that this. Go ahead.
I was going to continue with his titles. The principal patriarch of the clan Kilakalarney, the designer of their destinies, the father of their fantasies, the planter of their potatoes, and the guardian of their gold, even though he hasn't spoken to him in over 100 years.
Yes. So this movie's a strong word. It was 24 minutes. It was released in 1981 by Rankin Bass. It's one of the last ones they did.
Huh.
So one of the last holiday specials.
They blew the bank on this?
I think they'd already blown the bank. But yeah. So the movie starts with the introduction of Blarney, and he introduces himself as you just explained, and he says he's going to tell us the story about how the leprechauns brought all the gold back to Ireland. And then he begins a tale. Now, I just want to say up front, before I forget at the end, we never go back to finish the tale. Like, he finishes the tale, and there's never a revisiting of Blarney in his cabin.
I felt like I watched something that got cut off, because I thought it was going to go back to that, too.
So it's odd. It's almost like we caught up with present day and then continued on without any mentioning of the cabin. So I don't know. It was an odd thing. And a few other people did make notes of that. Believe it or not, this movie has been written about on the internet.
I don't think it has a traditional Wikipedia page, does it? It has like a fandom page, fandom wiki.
I did get some notes from the fandom page so that I wouldn't have to make notes watching it. But yes,
it's hard to keep it all straight despite a 24-minute runtime.
So I watched this one twice because it was pretty short. So I watched it and just didn't take any notes, and then I printed off a bunch of stuff, and then I watched it a second time and just made notes. He tells a story, and we get the Bell of Erin, which is a ship, and there's a young boy, a cabin boy named Dinty Doyle, who's on this boat, and he's on his way back to Dublin for the holiday.
Yeah.
But the day before Christmas Eve, his captain sends him they come across this island, and there's a tree there, and the captain realizes he forgot to pack a Christmas tree, so he sends the boy out to get the tree.
How long does he think that's going to take, do you believe?
I think he probably thought it was just going to tip over. But this tree has pretty good roots. But eventually he doesn't use an axe, he just tries to yank it out of the ground.
Strong
and
seaman.
Yeah. And he uproots a pine tree. And then
bubbling crude.
We have this bubbling geyser pops out. Pretty neat effect. I think they used like tinsel or something like that. Saran wrap. And an evil banshee has been released, Old Mag the Hag. And then she celebrates her freedom with a storm. We don't know who she is, by the way, at this point.
Free at last. So there are leprechauns watching this.
Yes, and they were apparently fans of Martin Luther King. Or not them, I guess.
The banshee's a fan, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a bunch of little people watching from the grass.
We can call them leprechauns. Yeah, we can call them leprechauns. They're fine with that.
Okay. Anyways, so she makes a storm, and then that storm creates a rainbow, which leads to, as we all know, the end of the rainbow is a pot of gold, so it points on this patch of shamrocks, and somehow the rainbow opens the doors of the shamrocks, and we see a stash of gold hidden, and yeah, so the gold is there.
So you think that was according to plan, that she made the storm to make the rainbow?
I don't think so.
Oh, huh. I don't know why else she would have brought the storm.
Well, she did say that I'll celebrate with a storm.
Oh, okay. She just likes the storms then. Yeah, sure.
She seems to keep forgetting where this gold is, just for the record.
How
She
long do
has
you
to
think she's
discover
been
this
down
gold
there?
many times.
200, over 100 years she's been under the tree. That's a good little folklore tradition, an evil spirit that's held captive with a tree, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah. My notes, which I did not write in this particular case, does say about 100 years before. So I can't recall if the narrator said that or not. So I can't recall exactly how Dinty gets to the pot of gold. He seems freaked out by the hag, but not too much. And maybe he got distracted like a squirrel when he saw the rainbow.
So he can't go back to the ship because of the storm, right? He can't see it.
Yeah, he loses the ship, or the ship lost him. It's a little unclear. There's a crew on this ship who just meander around for this day and a half, apparently.
We never see them again. Oh, no, we do at the very end.
No, we see the captain. We see the captain. So ultimately, Dinty finds the gold. Blarney's in the cave. Blarney attacks him with a rusty knife that breaks on his foot. I guess it didn't pierce the skin. No tetanus shot given.
Oh, I made some notes about the blade. I like what he said about the blade. He said,
okay,
it's the Kilakalarney blade. This needs to be a fan wiki thing, which slayed the terrible shamrock-eating dragon of Belfast. That's some history there. You know, Bilbo Baggins has Sting.
Rankin Bass knows two places in Ireland.
Dublin and Belfast. Do we know the name of the little island that the leprechauns live on? Used to be part of regular Ireland, but
they mention it, I think.
Okay.
I didn't write it down.
Whatever. I don't care.
I do recall there is a line. I will say that when he tells a story later and they show it break off, he calls it a little island. I think they give it a name. They ought to call it Kilakalarney Island.
That makes sense.
So, anyways, they apologize for the misunderstanding. He asked him, "Tell me, lad, are you a thief by trade or inclination?"
Oh.
And he says, "Neither. I saw the shiny stuff and I just couldn't help myself, like a kid at Christmas morning."
Gold fever.
Yeah. So then apparently he trusts him automatically. So Blarney takes him down for a cup of tea.
Closes up the hillside.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Blows away the rainbow.
Yeah. They carved out a little wooden head. Just do that. And then Blarney decides to tell Dinty the story of how he and his family fell out of touch with each other. Basically, the estrangement of him and his wife. So this flashback story is a long flashback story.
Is it 10 minutes?
It starts at minute 6 and it goes to 15.
Oh, wow.
So it's a 9-minute story for a 9-minute flashback and a 24-minute show.
Think about this. It's a flashback within a flashback, right? If we're taking the narration opening.
It is a story within a story.
Oh, man. I love those.
So he tells the story about it in roughly 100 years before Blarney and his wife, Faye, lived happily together with the Kilakalarneys and the Clogjiggers, leprechauns. So we have two families, really.
So Faye was a jigger, right?
Yeah. And it's a little unclear whether or not they were married or just shacking up.
They had a ceremony. We saw that makeshift church. And they're under the authority of St. Patrick, recognized Catholic saint. He wouldn't have allowed that.
They didn't actually call him St. Patrick. They called him the Lord of the Leprechauns, or the King of the Leprechauns.
He's
one of the two.
Also referred to as St. Patrick. Now, I don't know.
He makes a reference to St. Patrick.
This is a take on St. Patrick. You're saying that the Lord of the Leprechauns is not St. Patrick? I thought it was.
He looks like St. Patrick, and we're getting ahead of the story, but when they grabbed the pine cone, that pine cone fell from the tree of St. Patrick.
Oh, brother. Oh. Well, that just shatters my illusions here.
Well, and they never actually called him St. Patrick by face to face.
I missed that.
They say St. Patrick, but he's technically called, I can't remember if it's King or Lord of the Leprechauns. I think it's Lord. That's what I wrote down.
He has a bishop's hat on and a scepter with a clover on it. It's weird.
Well, his hat does not have a cross on it, though. It has a shamrock.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know. They're a little loose with their mythology. Where were we at?
Where were we? It was before we got off on St. Patty.
Oh, yeah. So you got Blarney and Faye shacking up together at the church. And then we find out that the Kilakalarneys are the gold miners. They're all guys. And then you got the Clogjigger leprechauns, who are females, who make the shoes.
Not all of them, so far as I could tell, but most of them. Definitely females making the shoes.
Yes. And then for some weird reason, they make mention that the leprechaun seems surprised at this, but the gold that the leprechaun's mine seems to attract rainbows, which give away where they're hidden. And one of those rainbows led Mag the Hag to the island.
She's on a deadline, Mag the Hag.
Yes. So we find out that banshees can do all these weird things. A little unclear as to what the parameters of some of this stuff is. But they're evil and they do bad things. But if they haven't found gold by Christmas Eve morning or Christmas morning? Which one?
It's got to be the strike of dawn or stroke of dawn Christmas morning.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Christmas morning, when the sun rises, if they don't have gold in their possession, they basically turn into a big, bubbly pile of tears.
Is that supposed to be forever or not? Because that's a bit of a plot hole in this movie.
Yes. She tries to trick the leprechauns into giving her the gold so she doesn't turn into a permanent puddle. Doesn't get very far over the Kilakalarneys. Then she decides to go to the old clog jiggers and tricks Blarney's wife, Faye, and all the other wives into basically wanting to give away all the gold. They no longer... It's a little weird. I don't understand. But basically, the rest of them don't go back to work the next day.
It was the women who were deceived. It's sort of a Garden of Eden, this situation here. That everyone is led astray but our noble Blarney, who is steadfast in his devotion to his gold.
So do you think it's a literal or allegory?
I'm sure somebody was working through their own marriage issues when they wrote this. Romeo Muller?
Some.
I don't know if he wrote
the
last thing we looked at or not, but
well, he wrote Rudolph.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I did see that.
Silver and gold. Nope, just gold.
So anyways, Blarney and Faye get into a big argument.
I like this art. There is some good wordplay in this marital spat, I gotta say. Well, he calls her daft, and she gets mad, and he does it again, and they have a very nice silhouette shot where their shadows are sort of growing over each other. That's all you see. And then he says, after he gets done at the mine, he's not going to come home. And Faye says, don't you come home and don't count on me to save your soul. Which I think she's literally talking about the shoes when they wear out. But she takes it to a spiritual dimension because she believes the banshee is her guardian angel. And somehow she believes that to get a better marriage and a better life, all the leprechauns got to give away their gold to the guardian angel. And Blarney says, that's banshee stupidity. But the clog jigger will not be convinced. And they have their marital separation there.
Yes, a very lengthy separation. Sounds like 100 years.
Yeah, well, leprechauns, you know. And at the time, supposedly they were the oldest leprechauns on this part of Ireland. So I wonder how long the lifespan's supposed to be of an average leprechaun. Probably like 800 years, maybe. I don't know.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Then the banshee confronts Blarney, who refuses. They're in the mine at this point. And she gets mad and makes an earthquake. And that's when the little island that they're on actually broke off of Ireland and floated out to sea.
And so Blarney, like Knuckles the Echidna, guards the gold as a solitary figure.
Yes. So Blarney at this point needs to get rid of Mag. So he seeks help from the aforementioned Lord of the Leprechauns, possibly St. Patrick, and they do something kind of mean.
It is deception, no doubt about it.
So Patrick has a meeting with Mag, and he asks her to show him how she turns into tears, and that if and when she does so, that he will tell Blarney to give her some gold. Not necessarily all of it, but just some of it.
That's all she needs. But so it is a bargain. You know, it's in the context of a bargain here.
Yes. And she says, tears we were, tears we are, and tears we will be again. I said that like a leprechaun, not like a banshee. Tears we were, tears we are, and tears we will be a come again.
Yeah.
And so she does. And then Patrick quickly gets Blarney to come and put a pine cone to plug the hole where her tears were bubbling. And then Patrick did a little dance, said a little spell, and it grew into a tree. And she's caught up in the roots, much like the villain in Ernest.
Frantor the Troll, sealed with a tree root.
Yes. So this is when we're at the 15-minute mark of the show, and we're back into the present-ish time. We're only within one story now. And Dinty tells Blarney that he dug up the pine tree and set her free, which she hadn't mentioned up to this point. And Blarney has a conniption. And then Dinty tries to repeat himself, and he's told by Blarney, "You don't have to chew your cabbage twice." Which I'm not sure I get. I understand what he's getting at, but I don't understand if it's supposed to be funny.
Yeah, it works. So we didn't mention this, but the Banshee is watching all this from atop whatever hobbit hole Blarney lives in, and she spiked his tea with some persuading powder that she just happened to be carrying around after she rematerialized from tears.
Well, more properly, it's generosity potion.
Oh, generosity potion. Now, the problem is the tea was hot when Blarney made it, so he tells this 10-minute story to let the tea cool.
Yes, and occasionally we catch the Banshee up top lamenting the fact that he's taking so long to drink his tea. So I will say, special effects wise, the pouring of the potion from the top down the room into the tea, underwhelming, not up to Rankin Bass standard.
It was fine. I didn't think too much about it.
It didn't even look liquid.
Yeah, I thought it was powder. It just kind of powdered down.
Well, I think it was. I think they were trying to make it be liquid, and it looked like powder.
It's odd if it's powder that she could drop it that far, but whatever.
So he drinks it, gets a little drunkish. At least that's how they portrayed it. A little blurry vision, saying funny things he's not used to saying.
Yeah.
Yep. And she comes down and tells him what she did, and tells him to give her the gold, and he gives the gold to Dinty.
You can't Blarney a Blarney.
Yeah. So he found a workaround, and then basically tells Dinty, "You need to run away with the gold."
Which is exactly what he does, right?
Well, yeah. So, but he also makes him promise on his mother's name never to give the hag the gold. This was at the 1637 mark of the film.
Yeah. You're not sure where they're going to go at this point. Yeah.
In 3 minutes and 7 seconds, including a song, he gives away the gold to the hag.
Now he thought he was the luckiest guy in the world. He found the only survivor of a different shipwreck, who was this very well made up woman in decent clothing that had just happened to be shipwrecked on the same island he was, and wanted to pledge her life to him just so long as he'd be willing to give her his gold, so she could take it with her and take all the leprechauns back to Ireland and set up a little town for them.
Yes, and so we should also say that when Blarney tells Dinty not to do this, he does tell him he's fully aware that the banshees are always crying. They're little glittery tears. And from the moment he meets Colleen to the moment that we have the heel turn, or the reveal, I should say, the reveal.
And that reveal is
crying
wonderful.
The whole time. Yeah, so he agrees to give her the gold, says it out loud, and she reveals via the most awesome evil face stop motion I've ever seen in my life.
It's the best part of this movie.
They need to make a sequel just based off that face.
We're going to call it the Banshee's Christmas Revenge, or The Banshee Rides Again. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the creepiest face, and then she grew into this giant hag thing.
Oh, it was, yeah.
It was great.
So, I guess it's not like Dinty Doyle, it's not like he physically gave her the gold, because he never physically had it. It's like he had permission to get the gold, and now he gives permission to Colleen, who's actually Banshee, to get the gold, but she doesn't physically have it yet. And I'm wondering, is the villain going to win in this movie? Because the movie's almost over.
You're wondering. So she puts Dipstick Dinty into, quote, a sleep of 100 Christmases. And he drops dead looking with his eyes wide open, or half open.
Yeah.
And Blarney's in the bushes at this point, who it's unclear if he's been there for a while. I feel like if he'd been there for a while, he should have said something. But he thinks that Dippy is dead. Then we go to the morning, and we have mourning.
Yep.
See what I did there?
Perfect for a Banshee movie, yeah.
Yeah, so Blarney's family members, including Faye, though they haven't technically reconciled yet, are there, and they're mourning the death of Dinty, though they have never met him.
Oh, they did see him, though, remember, at the beginning? Some of them saw him.
They saw him unleash the banshee because he's stealing their tree. Real nice guy. And seeing the dead Dinty, Faye's heart changes, and she realizes that she was wrong about the angel. Finally,
she had 100 years to think that over after knowing all that happened.
Yeah, and she admits to Blarney that she was wrong. Then Blarney apologizes for being a hothead and for acting as if the gold is more important than his wife or woman.
So really,
still not clear on that.
It's one of those apologies where I'm sorry if you were offended.
Well,
because he made it seem like it was.
Sir Patrick, King of the Leprechauns,
Lord
makes
an
appearance in the sky. Lord of the Leprechauns is pleased by the reconciliation.
Oh, man.
To it.
This is a weird Deus Ex Machina. This is a weird resolution to this movie.
Yeah. So he is thrilled of the reconciliation, and he puts a rainbow out in celebration. And the rainbow, or the light of the rainbow, awakens Dinty from his 100-year nap.
Yeah. 100 Christmases came early.
Yeah. And he does officially tell them, I wasn't dead. I was just in a dreamless darkness of oblivion. Seems pretty similar. And the rainbow leads Mag to the gold, because apparently all the rainbows go to that same little cave. And she flies over to claim her reward. The villain has won, it appears.
She finally got what she bargained for.
Yeah. But then we realize that Patrick, or the Lord, whoever he is, has pulled the football before Charlie can kick it. And the rainbow gets there, but it's morning now. As in morning. It is Christmas morning, and the sunrise gets there right before she can touch it. Just before. And she busts into tears, literally. And then we have an animated wave come and wash her away.
That's odd. Even the transformation of Banshee into tears, it doesn't seem to mesh with the rest of the movie.
No, they've already animated that one time. They didn't need to change it. Like, they showed it in the flashback where she turned herself into the tears for the Lord of the Leprechauns. And then this is just a completely different transformation. She kind of goes black and white, and they shrink her down, and then she busts into the bubble of tears or whatever. And then you get this animated wave, which I don't know why this was needed, come and wash her away.
Yeah, I guess they'd run out of money at this point.
I just don't know why they had the wave. Like, why did they need that?
That was part of the prophecy or whatever, that when the Banshee doesn't get the gold, they turn into tears forever and get washed away by a wave. So they felt like they had to have that in there, but it was an odd way to do it.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't catch the literal wave part.
Yeah,
I just thought
wash away.
Wash away is in, like, solve.
Yeah.
Anyways.
They could have done that different.
Yeah. The movie ends with Dinty realizing that the other end of the rainbow leads right to his boat, the Bell of Erin. And they have a big party, and the leprechauns bring all their shoes and their gold aboard. And the captain takes them back to their home in Ireland.
And credits roll.
Yes, and a song, I believe.
Yeah, I think there's 4 or 5 songs in the movie. Maybe there's just a credit song at the end.
Yeah, they may repeat one. Maybe they repeat the Christmas in Killarney song. So when they repeat this song at the end, they do some scenes, and one of the flashback scenes is Dinty with Colleen pre-transformation. It's like an odd little thing to include there.
Yeah, their big romantic moment is not what it looks like.
Yeah, based off the fandoms page, and it does seem pretty accurate. You have 4 songs. You have The Rainbow's End, which is the intro of the show. The Golden Gold of Ireland, which I can't recall, but I'm assuming that the Leprechaun sung it.
That was the flashback when they show the 2 different clans. One was mining the gold, and then they get into the shoe song at some point.
Okay. Yeah, then we have the Kilakalarney shoes, and then we get Christmas in Killarney, which is part of the 3 minutes that Dinty had before he gave away the gold to the Banshee.
Yeah, a lot happens in 24 minutes or less.
So did you see the little trivia that allegedly is true about Arthur Rankin?
Do tell.
It says he stated in an interview, there's no citation here, and I didn't have time to go look for it, that during the holiday season when it first aired, they had planned a promotion where prizes would be buried in random places throughout the U.S. for children to dig up. And this was scrapped for safety concerns.
It turns out that when you make it known that you've buried a treasure somewhere, You will get people who go to surprising lengths to find said treasure, even if it means a few dead bodies laying around. It's an odd ball. Leprechauns and Christmas. Just a real hodgepodge of oddities here.
And it's not really about Christmas.
It's just the timing. You gotta get it in there for Christmas morning.
I kind of wonder if this originally was like a St. Patrick's Day kind of special, but they realized that there's no market for that. So we'll make it Christmas.
So the poor banshee, she spends 100 years under a tree, and she gets revived less than 48 hours until Christmas morning. She's really on the clock. So it's like it wasn't enough to kill her forever that she didn't get the gold 100 years ago, and she got trapped under a tree, but I guess it's more permanent when the wave washes her away somehow.
Yeah, I don't know. So I guess we have to rate this off
how many gold
banshees?
Nuggets? Banshee tears, shoes.
There's all kinds of trinkets in this movie, isn't there? Too many. Or lords. Lords of the Leprechauns.
No, not those.
Pine cones.
We'll go either gold nuggets or banshee tears. The shoes were awful in this movie. None of the leprechauns are wearing shoes that look like what they're making at this factory. And who are they making it for if they're not wearing them?
And they're all these different colors. And the nails they use to hammer the soles on are as large as the shoe. So I feel like they're actually weapons for their enemies. They go and put the shoe on, and they get a nail in their foot.
Yeah, it's bad. I don't understand.
It's like carpet that doesn't have enough padding. You step it on the nails, got the house.
Yeah.
All right. So, Banshee Tears. Out of 5 Banshee Tears, Adam, how many are we giving the Leprechaun's Christmas Gold?
If we're going to say it's more about the Banshee than anything else, I'm going to give it 3. 3 up to 3.5. It's 24 minutes. I'm going to give it a solid 3 out of 5 for a 24-minute special. So I give it 3.
I'm going to give it, after my initial viewing, I would have given it 3.5. Having watched it a second time and catching some of the weird stuff, like the plot within, or the story within the story within the story, and just noticing the animation a little more, I'm going to give it 2.5. 2.5 Banshee Tears.
That's fair.
So it's a nice little movie. I think I could watch it every year because it's only 24 minutes. I will encourage my kids to watch it and then listen to this episode, of course. But I can't imagine it ever beating most of the other Rankin Bass. Partially because it's not really a Christmas movie. It happens on an island, a warm island on Christmas. I mean, and it's only Christmas for about a minute and a half.
It feels like an odd morality tale where you're not quite sure what they're trying to communicate, but it has some elements there.
Yeah, and I think you're right. You just can't trust leprechauns. They're just not on the up and up here.
They can't even get along with each other after they've been married 300 years.
I feel like the hag, is she really that bad of a person? She just doesn't want to die.
Yeah, she doesn't necessarily have to have all the gold. She just needs some gold every Christmas.
They couldn't give her one little coin? One little gold shoe?
It's a fair question. You know, I wonder if I gave an Oreo to the big bad wolf, would he still go huff and puff? Or would he give those pigs cool stuff? Same question with the Banshee and the gold.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that is the Leprechaun's Christmas Gold. Come back next week.
Silly Banshee. Gold nuggets are for Blarneys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.